The alabaster spires of Bosho rose like bone-white fingers against the amber sky, their polished surfaces reflecting the light of the binary stars that bathed this world. From orbit, the sprawling metropolis resembled an intricate circuit board, a testament to the mathematical precision and artistry of the archivist species that had built it over millennia. I admired their achievement as I stood on the bridge of our dreadnought. Truly, I did. The Varonaks are not incapable of appreciating beauty. We simply understand that beauty without the strength to defend it is merely plunder waiting to be claimed. Badam Commander Takmak, I addressed our leader with the proper deference, my secondary limbs positioned in the ritual stance of readiness. The tactical assessment of Bosho is complete. Takmak turned his massive armored form toward me, his primary sensory cluster pulsing with the deep crimson of anticipation. Speak, war tactician Meknar. The Archivist defense systems are more complex than initially reported, I said, displaying the holographic schematics my team had compiled. Energy shields surround their knowledge repositories and governmental centers, but our deep scans have detected weapon emplacements integrated into their architectural structures. Their biological defensive units are limited, but they appear to have a caste of dedicated warriors, physically altered for combat. Takmak's feeding mandibles clicked in contemplation. You suggest they might resist effectively? I suggest they will resist more than expected, I clarified. Intelligence from frontier encounters indicates this species has rarely engaged in direct conflict. Their diplomatic stance maintains that their knowledge is so valuable to all spacefaring races that attacking them would be irrational. And yet they prepare defenses, Takmak observed. Knowledge without the means to protect it is worthless, I replied. Perhaps they understand this fundamental truth better than we assumed. Takmak's sensory cluster pulsed with intrigue. The archivists have existed for 9,000 cycles. They have collected the scientific and cultural achievements of 317 species. Their data repositories contain technological insights that could advance our weapon systems by decades. The Dominion requires these advancements, I affirmed. Then we shall take them, Takmak declared. Modify assault pattern K-Ren 7. Prepare for resistance. Our dropships pierced the upper atmosphere of Bosho like meteors, trailing plasma as we descended toward the gleaming metropolis. I commanded the third wave, 50 elite warriors under my direct control, with 200 drone soldiers to absorb the initial defensive response. The first indication that this would not be a standard subjugation came when our lead ships entered the lower atmosphere. Hidden weapon platforms emerged from beneath the clouds, stealth technology that our sensors had failed to detect. Concentrated energy beams lanced upward, slicing through 3 of our vanguard vessels before they could take evasive action. All units, scatter formation, I transmitted through the command network. Atmospheric defenses active at coordinates December 83rd, 47:37. The Archivist's automated systems reacted with unexpected sophistication. Energy turrets tracked our approach with predictive algorithms that anticipated our evasive patterns. Our forward ships deployed countermeasures, sacrificing themselves to map the defensive grid. Even as they did, I watched 10 more of our vessels erupting into plumes of superheated gas. Exploit defensive node 37C, I transmitted to my assault team after analyzing the incoming data. Convergence pattern Theta. 20 dropships adjusted course simultaneously, concentrating fire on a single point in the city's shield network. The node's energy output spiked, attempting to compensate, then collapsed under the concentrated barrage. A section of the defensive shield flickered and died. Reach achieved, I reported. Deploying ground forces. My dropship plunged through the gap in the defenses, taking heavy fire from ground-based turrets as we descended. The hull integrity warnings flashed across my neural interface, 80%, 65%, 42%, as we fell toward our designated landing zone. We hit the ground hard, the impact dampeners straining to prevent us from being crushed inside our own vessel. Disembark! Combat formation, I commanded as the assault doors blew outward. I emerged into chaos. My dropship had landed in a vast plaza surrounded by towering opalescent structures. But we were not alone. The plaza swarmed with archivist combat units, a warrior caste we had severely underestimated. Unlike the willowy scholars our intelligence had emphasized, these were bulkier, their translucent skin covered with sections of biomechanical armor. They wielded energy weapons integrated directly into their upper limbs. "Hostile contact!" Second Warrior Katat shouted, raising his plasma shield just as an energy barrage struck our position. 3 of my warriors fell in the first exchange, their carapaces ruptured by the unexpected power of the archivist weapons. I rolled to cover behind a fallen statue, assessing the tactical situation. Across the plaza, I could see other Varanax dropships landing, their occupants immediately engaged by waiting archivist forces. War Tactician, Battle Commander Takmak's voice came through my neural link. The archivists appear to have anticipated our assault vector. "Affirmative," I replied, firing a burst from my disruptor cannon that vaporized 2 advancing archivist warriors. "Their tactical capability exceeds our intelligence reports, requesting orbital bombardment on marked coordinates." "Negative," Takmak responded. "Their orbital defense grid remains intact. The dreadnought is taking fire. We must eliminate their command center before heavy support can be provided." This was not proceeding according to plan. The Varanax Dominion rarely faced meaningful resistance during first contact conquests. These archivists, for all their philosophical dedication to knowledge preservation, had prepared for violence with surprising thoroughness. "All units," I broadcast to my warriors, "converge on the central repository. Breach at any cost." We fought our way across the plaza, moving from cover to cover as energy blasts superheated the air around us. The archivist warrior caste proved tactically sophisticated, using coordinated fire and flanking maneuvers that suggested centuries of combat theory even without practical experience. My warriors, bred and trained for war since hatching, still held the advantage in direct combat, but not by the margin I had expected. When we reached the edge of the plaza, a new threat emerged. The ground rumbled, and massive sections of the immaculate stonework split apart as automated combat walkers rose from concealed bays. Each stood 3 times the height of a Varanax warrior, its sleek design belying its obvious destructive capability. "Heavy units," I warned, "converge fire on junction points." The combat walkers moved with fluid grace, their weapon arms tracking our positions with precision. The first barrage obliterated an entire squad of drone soldiers, leaving nothing but superheated vapor where they had stood. My elite warriors scattered, seeking cover as they adjusted their weapons to maximum output. "Tartkar," I called to my second-in-command, "deploy the phase disruptors." Tartkar signaled acknowledgement, removing a specialized weapon from his dorsal carrying case. The device, a recent acquisition from another conquered species, emitted a focused burst of energy that temporarily disrupted the molecular cohesion of synthetic materials. He aimed carefully, waiting for the optimal moment as the nearest walker stepped into range. The disruptor fired, its energy washing over the walker's left leg. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the limb suddenly lost structural integrity, its components temporarily unable to maintain molecular bonds. The massive machine toppled, crashing into one of its companions and creating momentary chaos in the archivist's defensive line. "Advance," I ordered, leading my warriors through the gap in the enemy formation. We pushed forward, leaving half our force engaged with the walkers to keep them distracted. The central spire of Bosho, the Grand Repository, loomed ahead, its entrance guarded by concentric rings of defensive positions. The archivists had clearly prepared for this eventuality, despite their peaceful rhetoric. "Approaching primary objective," I transmitted to Takmak. "Encountering significant resistance, casualty rate at 37%. "Unacceptable," Takmak responded. "But necessary. We have breached their orbital defense network. Bombardment will commence in 6 time units." Secure the primary data cores before then. 6 time units, a narrow window to accomplish our mission before the Dominion reduced this city to slag. I felt a momentary flash of something approximating respect for these archivists. They had forced the Dominion to resort to orbital weapons, a rare concession that an enemy had proven more capable than expected. As we approached the repository entrance, a figure emerged from the grand archway. Unlike the warrior caste we had encountered, this archivist was tall and willowy, dressed in elaborately patterned robes. Its 4 upper limbs held no weapons, and its elongated cranial structure pulsed with complex bioluminescent patterns. "I am Taral, Prime Keeper of the Bosho Archives," it announced, its voice somehow cutting through the sounds of battle. "This violence is unnecessary. The knowledge you seek can be shared freely." I raised my weapon, targeting the archivist's central mass. "The Varanax Dominion does not share. We take." "So we have observed," Taral replied. "For 3,000 cycles we have monitored your species' expansion. We have recorded the extinction of 17 civilizations at your claws. We have preserved their knowledge, their art, their history, all that remains of them." I hesitated, surprised by this revelation. "You've been watching us?" "We watch all species with the potential for greatness or destruction," the archivist said. "It is our purpose to observe, to record, to preserve, and when necessary, to defend." The Prime Keeper raised its upper limbs, and the air around it shimmered with energy. A wave of force exploded outwards, slamming into my warriors with devastating effect. 3 were crushed instantly, their exoskeletons imploding under the pressure. The rest, including myself, were thrown backward, crashing into the debris-strewn plaza. "The knowledge we preserve includes weapons," Taral continued, advancing toward us with measured steps. "We hoped never to use them, but we prepared nonetheless." I struggled to my feet, my exoskeleton cracked in multiple places, acid blood seeping from the wounds. "Impressive," I admitted, "but futile." With a thought, I activated my neural implant's emergency protocols. A surge of combat stimulants flooded my system, temporarily blocking pain receptors and enhancing muscle response. I lunged forward with augmented speed, covering the distance to the Prime Keeper before it could generate another energy wave. My primary attack claw pierced its torso, the serrated edge tearing through its delicate flesh. Bioluminescent fluid, their equivalent of blood, spurted from the wound, pulsing with rapidly fading light. The archivist's 4 limbs grasped at my exoskeleton, not in an attempt to free itself, but in what appeared to be an attempt to connect. "Even now we learn," Taral whispered, its voice weakening. "Even now we preserve." I felt a strange tingling where the archivist touched my carapace, followed by a momentary intrusion in my neural network, as if something was being extracted. Before I could react, the connection broke as Taral's life faded, its body slumping against mine. "The Prime Keeper is eliminated," I transmitted to my remaining warriors. "Advance to the repository core." The interior of the grand repository was even more vast than our intelligence had suggested. The spire was hollow, extending upward beyond visual range. Along its inner surface, spiraling platforms held countless artifacts, books made of actual organic materials, data crystals of designs I'd never encountered, devices of unknown purpose from civilizations long extinct. Between the platforms, anti-gravity wells allowed for rapid vertical movement. "Locate the central data core," I ordered my warriors as we spread through the lower level. "We have less than 4 time units before orbital bombardment." The remaining archivists within the repository offered little resistance. These were scholars, not warriors. They fell easily before our advance, their delicate forms no match for Varanak's combat efficiency. Some begged for mercy, offering knowledge in exchange for their lives. Such bargains held no meaning for us. Knowledge was our prize. Their lives were irrelevant. "War tactician," Tartker called from across the central chamber. I believe I have located the primary data core. I joined him before a massive structure of interwoven metallic filaments surrounding a pulsing orb of energy. Data crystals of various sizes and colors were integrated into the framework, each presumably containing the distilled knowledge of entire civilizations. "Extract what you can," I ordered. "Priority on weapons technology, navigational data, and biological research." My warriors worked with practiced efficiency, removing the most valuable data crystals and storing them in specialized containment fields. As they did, I noticed something troubling in the flow of information displayed on the core's monitoring systems. Data was being transferred, compressed, encoded, but not by our actions. "The system is purging itself," I realized. "They're wiping the data cords." "Impossible," Tarkar responded. "Their defense protocols should have been neutralized when we eliminated the Prime Keeper." A voice emanated from the data core itself. Not Terrell, but a chorus of voices speaking in perfect unison. "The Bosho archives cannot be taken, they can only be shared or destroyed." I scanned the chamber, seeking the source of the voice, but it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The Prime consciousness survives beyond biological forms," the voice continued. "What you sought to steal is already beyond your reach. What remains will soon be ash." "Evacuation protocol?" I transmitted to all Varanak's forces. "Extract with all currently secured artifacts. Immediate withdrawal." My warriors grabbed what data crystals they had already collected and moved toward the exit. As we retreated, the entire repository began to vibrate, its structure resonating at a frequency that made my sensory organs ache. "War tactician," Takmak's voice came through the neural link. "Our sensors detect a massive energy buildup within the city. The archivists appear to be initiating some form of self-destruction protocol." "Accelerate the bombardment," I responded. "Maximum yield. Destroy this entire metropolis before they can complete whatever they're attempting." We fought our way back through the city, facing less resistance now as the archivist forces were also withdrawing. Not in defeat, but in what appeared to be a coordinated evacuation. Above us, the sky darkened as the Dominion dreadnoughts moved into position for the orbital strike. The first energy beam struck as we reached our extraction point. Massive columns of destructive force slammed into the spires of Basho, vaporizing their upper sections instantly. The ground beneath us heaved, fissures opening in the once perfect stonework as shock waves rippled outward from each impact. "Extraction vessels inbound," Tarkar reported. 60 seconds to arrival." The bombardment intensified, methodically reducing the city to rubble around us. Through the chaos, I observed something unexpected. Small ships, previously undetected, rising from hidden hangars throughout the city. The archivists were escaping. "Command," I transmitted. "Unidentified vessels leaving the surface, requesting interdiction." "Already engaged," Takmak responded. "Most will be eliminated, but our sensors indicate unusual propulsion signatures. Some may escape our containment grid." This was unacceptable. The Varanak's Dominion did not leave enemies alive to seek revenge. We eradicated threats completely. It was our way. "Divert bombardment to target escape vessels," I ordered. "Negative," Takmak countered. "Priority remains the destruction of the knowledge repositories. The archivists without their data are no threat. Focus on extraction with acquired artifacts." Our vessels descended through the maelstrom of destruction, landing just long enough for my remaining warriors to board with our precious cargo of stolen data crystals. As we lifted off, I watched through the viewports as the magnificent city of Bosho collapsed upon itself. Spires toppled, plazas cracked and sank into newly formed abysses, and the grand repository, the culmination of 9,000 cycles of knowledge gathering, imploded in a stunning release of energy. Back aboard the command dreadnought, I delivered my report directly to Takmak. The mission was partially successful. We acquired approximately 22% of the targeted data, primarily military technologies and biological research. The rest was either destroyed in the bombardment or evacuated by surviving archivists. Takmak's sensory cluster pulsed with mixed colors, satisfaction tinged with frustration. The Dominion expected complete acquisition. explain the shortfall. The archivists' defensive capabilities were significantly understated in our intelligence, I said. They had prepared specifically for our arrival, suggesting prior knowledge of Dominion conquest protocols. Furthermore, their central data systems were equipped with emergency purge mechanisms and quantum entanglement transfer capabilities we have not previously encountered. And the survivors? I displayed the tracking data on the command hologram. 17 vessels escaped our containment grid. Trajectory analysis suggests they are heading toward the Outer Rim territories, beyond current Dominion influence. Each vessel likely contains archivist scholars and portions of their data archives. Takmak's mandibles clicked in annoyance. So they will rebuild elsewhere. Possibly, I acknowledged, but their military capacity has been eliminated, their primary repository destroyed. They pose no threat to the Dominion for at least 700 cycles, by which time our assimilation of their captured technology should place us well beyond their capability. Takmak moved to the observation deck, gazing down at the now ruined world of Bosho. Fires still burned across the shattered landscape, visible even from orbit. The once perfect metropolis was now little more than a smoking crater. "Issue a standing order," he said finally. "Any archivist vessel or individual encountered by Dominion forces is to be eliminated immediately. No exceptions, no interrogations. They have seen too much of our method." "It shall be done," I confirmed. "And the data crystals we acquired? Already being analyzed by the technical division. Preliminary reports indicate significant advancements in quantum computation, energy manipulation, and biological enhancement. The Dominion will benefit greatly." Takmak turned from the viewport. "Then the campaign was worthwhile, despite the unexpected resistance. The Dominion grows stronger. Perhaps next time we will be better prepared for these scholars who play at being warriors." As our dreadnoughts departed the Bosho system, I found myself contemplating the Prime Keeper's final words. "Even now we learn. Even now we preserve." What had it extracted from my neural network in those final moments? What had it learned about the Varunacs that might be preserved in those escaping vessels? For the first time in my 17 campaigns, I felt something approximating concern. The archivists had proven more formidable than expected. They had sacrificed their homeworld, but preserved their most valuable asset, knowledge, along with enough of their population to eventually rebuild. In the final analysis, we had won the battle. The city was destroyed, the population decimated, their primary repository reduced to atoms. The Dominion would classify this as a successful if conquest, but as I examined the data crystals we had captured, each containing the distilled wisdom of extinct civilizations, I couldn't dismiss the unsettling thought that, perhaps, in some way I couldn't yet identify, the archivists had sacrificed a homeworld but survived to fight another day. The Varunacs Dominion believed that strength was everything, yet these archivists had shown that knowledge properly applied could be a form of strength we had not fully appreciated. I would not make that mistake again. The next civilization we conquered would face not just our traditional might, but our newly acquired knowledge as well. After all, the Dominion always adapts. It is our way. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.